Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So let's go ahead, Ambikesh and myself, and turn off our video. I just have to figure out how to, oops, do that. I do not know how to do that. Oh, there it is. Stop video. For some reason, it seems to still be playing it. Okay, we're going to go ahead. So this is the Game Thinking Masterclass AMA. And I wanted to start with a story about my family. So here we are. This was up at Humboldt State, where my son is going to school fairly recently. And my family means a lot to me. And I've done a lot to set things up so I could spend time with them. I've talked a lot about where game thinking came from. And, a part of that origin story is when my husband and I, who's also the co-teacher for this masterclass, formed a startup in 2007, a brain game startup. Took some venture money. We were so excited about our idea and about the potential of changing the world and doing something really new and different. What I don't talk about as much was what it was like to have kids during that time and have a family trying to run a startup. This is the age my kids were. My daughter was just turning 2, and my son was 8. And as you probably know, it's really hard to run a startup and bring in money and have kids and be a mom. And, the stress of that really took a toll. And we were so passionate about our idea and our game and how much we tuned in and how beautiful the interface was and all that good stuff. So when I wasn't able to cross the chasm and find that mainstream success, it was really devastating. And how much time I had missed with my kids really tore at me, because I really wondered, what's this about? Is it worth it? And I had all this feedback from different sides coming at me. One stakeholder telling me to do this, another stakeholder telling me to do that, a lot of different opinions. And then I was able to turn that into techniques that actually sort through all that noise and cut right through it and get you to where you need to be. Techniques I learned from people like Will Wright, to run tiny experiments in order to find the fun and figure out that core learning loop. Techniques I learned from Stuart Butterfield to solve a real problem for a small group and really get that going before growing it bigger. Oops. I have the red spinny ball of death. So what this was all about for me was learning the basics of game thinking that I'm now bringing to you. And one of the things that I noticed was this core learning loop idea. Slack started with a learning loop and iterated and polished it for years. So did Rock Band. So did The Sims. That's how you build and develop a compelling customer experience. And we're going to hear more about that. Ambikesh, I think you've got a story recently from how you applied game thinking and found a learning loop in your work that really transformed your project. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Amy. And yeah, I do want to talk about my personal success story with game thinking, and it's been just that. It's been a success, actually. And so I started working a few months ago with this travel startup based out of Gurgaon in India. It's a big hub for a lot of startups, and they call themselves a startup. They have that energy, but they've been around for some time. And their business model is they have a platform which brings together online travelers and connects them with offline travel agencies. And it's strange. Most of us might not be using travel agencies anymore, but there's a huge part of the world still using them, and that's why the business is still there. So these guys are like a marketplace for travel agencies. And funnily enough, the conversation with them started with gamification. And I know, Amy, you talk a lot about how gamification has been used and abused, and it has sort of hit a ceiling, and it hasn't worked with a lot of people, and how game thinking can step in to really 10x your gamification. Actually, this story is about that. This company had, they tried a little bit of gamification in a very rustic manner, I would say. They used Excel, created some points around different activities, and they did some A/B testing, and they found that the needle moved on the performance of the travel agencies. So they were thrilled about it, but they didn't know what the next step was, how to take it further, how to create a more long lasting engagement out of this. So that's where I got involved, and with my good friend here, Jackson, two of us, we worked on this project, and it was amazing. Just the other day, I was talking to the VP of operations, who was actually the project sponsor and the owner in the organization. And he was telling me the wonderful thing that has happened is, the core loops that we were able to identify out of this project. Now, even beyond the scope of this project, all the energies that this travel startup is focused around the core loops. It has sort of percolated all their efforts, and they are now focusing on how they can optimize, improve performance of the travel agencies, all around these 4 or 5 core loops that we've been able to identify. And that, I think, is one of the biggest differences, where game thinking goes uh, strides ahead of design thinking. And that, and the other, obviously the other big one is how you identify your super fans. These were travel agents who were out there, who were using the system consistently, uh, but more importantly, they had a lot of inputs, a lot of valuable information that they were willing to share with us. And it was amazing. It has been such a joyride. It's been about 3 or 4 months now that we've been working on this, and we're close to ending our journey and within the scope of this project. But the revelations have been amazing. The patterns that we saw with these super fans. One interesting thing I would want to share is that this is something which none of us had thought about, was that WhatsApp was being used a lot in the communication that the travel agencies had with the travelers, but
Mhm.
all this conversation was getting lost uh, it wasn't happening on the platform, right? So it was information, vital information, which was getting lost. So now we're going to create an integration with WhatsApp, so that a lot of that key transactions that were happening there are now also being tracked on our platform. But we are also riding on the existing habit that the travelers and travel agencies have of using WhatsApp. So all this came out, all these wonderful things came out of game thinking, the process, and the company is also completely hooked. People have bought the book, they're reading up on it themselves, and they're educating themselves. And I'm just so happy to be part of this journey. And this is actually a beginning for me too, a new beginning. And I'm so excited and pumped to help many more such ideas come to life, because that's really what game thinking is doing. It's bringing ideas out of dark corners into the sunlight. So I'm really happy and pumped about this. I'm pumped about the masterclass that's coming up. I'm going to be an assistant coach, and I'm going to have an amazing 8 weeks of learning experience. So really looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Amy.
Boy, am I too. Thank you so much for telling me that story. So, Kara, this makes me think of your story, because I know that the core loop has been a big part of it, and I'd love to hear your story. So, how did you first start using game thinking, and what kind of impact has it had on your product development?
Yeah. Well, let me just introduce myself really quickly.
Yes, absolutely.
My name is Kara Meverden, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Scout FM. We're a small startup based out of San Francisco that's focused on making podcasts easier and safer to listen to while you drive through Alexa skills and apps that we've developed. And I think I first was exposed to some of the game thinking when right after we were founded. I worked with Amy Jo on some customer development and our problem interviews and solution interviews and those kind of things, which was a big learning area for me. My background, I'm a product manager, and I've worked for companies. I worked for Google and Twitter, Indiegogo, Medium. And while I had worked on all these different pieces of the product, and I'd worked with designers and I'd worked with researchers, I hadn't ever done it all myself and done it from scratch. And so the program, I was first familiarized somewhat with it back in 2017, but we were really doubling down on our apps and our app retention in 2018. And that's when the Game Thinking book came out. Is that right? 2018?
Correct. That's right. June of 2018.
I got the book right after it came out and just, read it cover to cover. Some was familiar to me, but some wasn't. And right away, I saw some things that I just hadn't been familiar with, that light bulbs went off, and it felt like this guide to how to create user engagement. We worked with UX designers and visual designers, but that's not enough. What is this entire end-to-end experience? And I think the concept of the core loop and the concept of, the path to mastery, those were things that honestly were not familiar to us, but were completely applicable to what we were doing. So after I read it, it's not a hugely dense book. I got my whole team to read it, and it was a gift to us because we had this shared language then about what we could talk about and where our product was falling down. So we invested a lot of time in really saying, what is our core loop? We already had the product, but it was the core loop wasn't clearly defined, and how can we make improvements to the core loop? And I think a big message of the Game Thinking book is just nail that core loop before you move on to onboarding or before you move on to that path to mastery. And even in I think maybe the last chapter on road mapping, there's a chart there that we referred to all the time about how do you progress from the core loop to, doing some onboarding to the path to mastery, that kind of thing. And just having everyone on the same page about how we were going to approach product development and having a shared language was, I think it saved us so much time and heartache and confusion and arguments. And so that's been really fantastic. And I think even just direct impact, the part on onboarding and thinking of that as the level one that essentially gets you into the core loop and trains you up, that made a numerical difference in our first week retention rate and even just our return rate. So it's made a huge difference for us, and I recommend the book to everyone, and the Masterclass if you really want to get clarity on everything that's going on there and make sure that you do your best. I mean, as a startup, time is of the essence. So the faster you can have someone else explain these things to you or give you a roadmap versus trying to learn it on your own has been really valuable for us.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. It just makes my heart sing. But I mean, it's all about the tools and figuring out how to figure out things faster.
Yeah, shortcuts. And I told you this the other day. I have Kindle app on my Mac, and I have the Game Thinking book up all the time, so I can just refer to various pieces.
Wow. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And so if anybody wants to find out about Scout FM, where can they go?
Just go to scout.fm or search for us in the either App Store or the Google Play Store.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, they've won some awards. Didn't you guys win a Google Play Award?
Yes. Our Android app won Google Play Most Entertaining. of 2018. It was one of 5 apps selected for the year. So that was a great honor. And yeah, we're very proud of the apps and the experience end.
So if you love podcasts, go check that out.
Yeah, or if you're looking for a new podcast, it's a great app.
Awesome. So Davina, I would love to have you tell your game thinking story.
Yeah, great. Hi. Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name's Davina Pallone, and I'm the VP of Product at NeuroTrack, which is a company. It's a digital therapeutics company making a mobile app for measuring and maintaining cognitive health for folks who are over 50 who want to stave off dementia and maintain quality of life as they age. My team is very early in our 3-month game thinking accelerator, and I found out about game thinking through my sister, actually, who's a product designer at Paratherapeutics, and she's been working on some apps to help folks who are dealing with MS. And I really loved the core learning loops that she was working with. And so when I asked her to show those to me and run through that process with me, she just said, you should go hire Amy Jo Kim and it'll put rocket fuel in your tank. And I think I can fairly say that that is exactly what has happened over the past 3 weeks. We're 3 weeks into the accelerator, and we have been making lightning speed with identifying superfans, and it's been amazing. And I would totally agree with Kara, where I have the Kindle book, it's up all the time. I've listened to the book on Audible, but the self-learning aspect of it as we come up on our first product launch in Japan was feeling a bit daunting. And it's been amazing, Amy Jo, to have you step in and really push us and guide us through this process.
It's been amazing working with you and seeing how the team really absorbs the information and just rockets along. So we have a team option in the masterclass, and I know I've talked to a lot of folks about, and several teams have already signed up. So the team aspect of game thinking is really a core part of it. So maybe Davina, you can talk a little bit about what's happening with your team around some of these issues. We're still very early, but what kind of dynamics are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, it's been very encouraging from the get-go. I love the team at NeuroTrack. I've been there for 4 months now, and it's a very collaborative team. And when you're building digital therapeutics, it's really important that you can pull in, the foundation is science. And so our clinical team is really important to what we do, and research across, of course, clinical research, marketing, and product research is all, everybody at NeuroTrack is very bought into that. So that's wonderful. And when I proposed that we begin and use data in order to inform the product that we should be building, everybody across the board from the C-suite all the way down got very excited. So we have our clinical team, our marketing team, UX research, design, the engineering team is excited about it. I don't think there's a person at NeuroTrack who's not excited about this whole process. So
that's awesome. So I think, Kara talked about the shared language. Yep. And I think that's a big part of what, if you work with a team, you can bring back to your team with game thinking, is that shared language that speeds everything up.
Yeah, I agree. And we've even been able to use this language with our partners in Japan. I love hearing, long strings of Japanese that I do not understand, and then I'll hear super fans. And so, or I'll hear game thinking, because they don't translate that into Japanese, they just say it in English. And so we have our partners using the same language. I think it's really important that they understand not only how we listen to them, but they do not make products. These are insurers, payers that are in Japan. They are really excited about using technology to help people improve their health, but they look to us to be the experts. And in that same way, they trust us to leverage all of the best approaches and methodologies. And so I've been through various slide decks educating them about the learning loops that we're looking for, about the super fans that we'll be talking to. We're working with them to identify cohorts in Japan that we can do research with. And so this has been really key to have them on board with this process as well, so that we can give them updates and they understand this very rigorous approach that we're taking. And they trust us because they know that we're not just forming opinions internally, but we're going out and we're testing them with the market.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's very exciting when you can blend product management, design, and research and create something better because of that.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
All right, so it sounds like we've got some questions coming in. So Ambikesh, do you want to throw those my way?
Yep, I have.
I also have some that after you do those that came in earlier via email that I'll make sure to answer.
Sure, Amy.
Do you want to
I do have a couple of questions. I have one that I want to ask you. So one question that is coming in, and I've heard this one before, but if you could just tell us again, how game thinking is different from gamification.
That's such a good question. So there's layers of it, like peeling an onion. At the highest level, an easy way to think about it is that game thinking is a journey first approach to creating an experience. And game thinking is often a mechanics first approach, where you get excited about the mechanics and talk about those early. So mechanics are great when they're supporting a coherent journey. And so game thinking brings three key techniques or tools to the party that take it beyond gamification. Super fans is one, and Kara mentioned these, as did Davina, as did you. So I'm just going to reinforce the themes that we just talked about. Super fans is different than gamification. It also is different than design thinking or lean startup, which game thinking also embraces. And super fans is the idea that there's a narrow slice of your high need early adopter market that you can design better and move faster if you get in touch with and understand their needs and habits and design for those habits. So it's all about giving you a proxy, a cohort within your overall audience that can help you design a compelling experience. That's the super fan thing. Secondly is the mastery path. Kara mentioned that. And that's the idea that your customer experience is framed as a journey to mastery. And you ask yourself questions about, what is my customer getting better at? How am I creating an experience that gets better as my customer becomes more skilled and more knowledgeable and more connected? And that's how you create a mastery path. Game thinking offers you concrete tools to help you model that out so you can actually create that coherence in your product experience. And then thirdly, game thinking is about that core learning loop, which is part of the mastery path. It's the third stage, habit building. And it's really the mechanics of how you drive deep engagement is with a learning loop, and how you create a skill building environment versus a manipulative environment that so often happens with gamification. What do you think?
No, I absolutely agree. I was just about to, yeah, I just want to sort of, I want to support the same things, because I mean, the example I shared with you, the conversation started with the topic of gamification. But again, the gap there was they didn't know what to do with it in long term, how to create a long-term engagement. So we do have a loyalty program. There's still points, there's still badges, all those stuffs are there, as you talked about in mechanics, but now, we're talking about a journey for the player. What will happen with the regulars, what will happen with the masters, how you do onboarding, all those different aspects, and how, you keep leveling up as you go ahead. So game thinking has brought in that storyboard now, which is missing earlier. Yeah. Another quick one, Amy, and this is especially relevant to my folks here in India, I would say, because in the recent times, and again, thanks to game thinking, I've been in touch with a lot of startups. I've been in touch with a lot of incubators and VCs who invest in startups. So I also know that you have a program which focuses on teams, right, rather than individuals. So
Yes.
if there are, I would love if you could just tell us a little more about that. How is that different from the individual program, the individual masterclass?
Thank you. Yeah, I've been answering that question all day, and I would love to. So in the masterclass, we have a team upgrade. And the team upgrade allows a team of up to 10 people. It can be smaller, but you can include up to 10 people to participate in the masterclass and to get their own, to get their own private meeting and one-on-one feedback on their project from me as part of the masterclass. In the individual program, we have group meetings, small group meetings, where we have people from all over the world. It's 4 to 6 people per meeting. And we talk about their project, share data, share the screen, share the templates, talk about what we're working on. The masterclass for both teams and individuals includes self-paced learning modules, videos, PDFs, and templates, so that when we meet live, which is every week, we're always working on your project highly interactively and really moving things forward versus anything that's like a lecture. That's all taken care of with the pre-recorded learning materials. And then in the individual, you come to weekly meetings, it's a small group, you share your stuff, you learn from other people, you get to be in the hot seat and get feedback. And you get feedback not just from me and from Scott and from Ambakesh, but also from your fellow students who are working on similar things, but usually in different domains. And there's a lot of diversity and it's really exciting. Now in the team upgrade, you have access to all of that. You can go to those group meetings, but you also schedule at the same time each week your own private meeting with me or with Scott Kim if you're in the education track. And that gives you that extra feedback and to really concentrate on your project and get to know your project. Now, both the teams and the individuals get access to some really amazing benefits from being in the masterclass, which is we have actually, I think it could be up to 12 at this point, VIP guest coaches, an amazing group of people, Carl Kapp from education, Laura Klein, Ralph Koster, Dan Cook, Jesse Schell, very famous game designers. But that's not what's important. What's important is they can give you amazing feedback on your project and feedback on what you're learning. And so you get access to those as a bonus. We set up special meetings. You can come to them. If you can't come, you can just post your questions. We'll answer them, share the recording later. We also have a community where the people gather and we share tips and tricks between the meetings, and both teams and individuals can get access to that. What the teams also get is their own private group where they can stay in touch with me between the meetings so that they get their questions answered and never get stuck. Now we also have an accelerator program, that's what Davina's in, and that runs year round, and this team program in the masterclass is a mini version of the accelerator. So it's an opportunity for people that can't quite get into the accelerator or want to do something that's a little bit shorter and really works with their time schedule to get a lot of what that experience is all about, but within this masterclass format.
Lovely. Thank you, Amy. Thanks for that. And another thing that I marvel at is the diversity that you talked about. It's not just tech startups. It's not just, fintech or these kind of startups that can use game thinking. It can actually fit into so many different domains. It can help so many different kinds of ideas, as I said, come to life. So great. Thanks, Amy. Those are my questions. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us.
Great. So I'll switch over to the other questions that came in. I'll start with one that builds on what you just said. So Laura asked, I'm an educator. Is game thinking for me? And the answer is absolutely. We have an educator track, and a lot of people in the learning development field and educators use game thinking to create better and more engaging learning experiences for their learners. And you can apply it to classroom games. You can apply it to after-school programs. If you're a homeschooler, you can apply it to setting up the lessons and the experiments you're running. If you're a school superintendent, you can apply it to the innovation efforts that you're doing in your school district. In fact, Scott Kim, who is leading that, currently is working with the Burlingame School District to bring games-based learning into after-school programs for kids who are English learners and really struggling both in math and language. And they're seeing some amazing results. So absolutely, it's for you. So let's see, okay. And then another question that came in is, I work for a company. Can I get my company to pay for this? The answer is absolutely. If you go to the Masterclass page, which we'll link in the chat, you will see that under the FAQs, there's a link for getting sponsorship from your organization for the Game Thinking Masterclass. I actually just talked to someone earlier from a pretty large New York-based organization that wants to send a couple of people, and they're going to look into their training budget. So that's the place to do it. We have a PDF you can download and take to your team leader, to your manager, to your boss, in order to make it clear the value that not just you're getting, but your whole organization is getting. So absolutely. Hey Cleo, that's my dog. Okay, so we just have a few more minutes. Let me see. I think I have time for one or two more. So let's see what's coming in. We got Jeff asking, is game thinking going to help my startup succeed? What if it doesn't work? Yep. I mean, Kara can speak to that. And, you know, I've had hundreds and hundreds of people that run startups work with me in this masterclass. And what I've learned, and I'm going to be really super honest with you, because game thinking is not for everyone. The masterclass is not for everyone. This is what I've learned. If you care about market truth more than your ego, game thinking is a gold mine. This will transform your business and save you many, many months of time. It is a way for you to find out faster than you thought possible what product market fit means, who it's for, and what you need to build for the people that you care about the most. So will it work for everybody? Is it perfect? Of course not. That would be silly. But if you're running a startup, this is a way for you to de-risk some of your most crucial assumptions. And the thing I hear the most from startup CEOs, by far, when they start working with me in this program is, damn, I wish I'd done this 6 months ago. If you think it's too early, it's probably not. Now, if you think it's too late, as long as you can take in some market truth and make some changes, it's not. But if you want to save months of time, this methodology and this coaching format will absolutely do that for you. The other thing I want to emphasize for you startup CEOs, because I'm running my own company too. We all watch our budgets. We all want to know, is this going to work, right? We have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So there's really no risk to you. We're taking on the risk. If you're listening and you're thinking, I don't know if I have the time and maybe things are fine. I think I'll just poking around on my own. Go for it. Bless your heart. Go for it. That's great. And you know that. But if you're wondering, wow, this really sounds like what I need. Sounds like what I've been looking for. I see all these other people that got great ROI and built compelling products using this. I need that. If that's what you're thinking and you're feeling, and you really care about your project, and especially if you have a team, and time is money, you saving your team time means a huge difference. Go ahead and sign up. If it's not for you, we'll give you your money back. We don't want to take it. If it is for you, it's going to be the best money that you spend all year. All right, so Scott, do we have any others coming in? I think we're just at the 42 minute mark. Anything else there?
Yeah, just how much time per week should
Oh.
I devote to this?
That's right. That's a great question. So if you want to learn the ropes, you can do it in as little as 2 to 3 hours. And I have every year folks that spend 2 to 3 hours, maybe 4, come to the meetings, consume all the videos, fill out the templates. That's what you need. That will work great. If you have a project and you want to make massive progress on your project, you can spend more time and you'll get way more out of it. There's some weeks when you're running speed interviews, you might spend 15 hours or even 20. There's some weeks when you're doing strategy or maybe iterating your design, might be closer to 5. But that's up to you. So you can really do it either way on either track. The thing to know is it runs once a year. So if you want to learn this, now's the time. And if you want your project to see the kind of results that you've been reading about on the Masterclass page, in our testimonials, and you heard about today from our wonderful alumni, then putting more time in will get you there faster. So I just want to take a moment and have everybody who's here with me turn on their video if you're in video form. So Ambikesh and Kara and Davina, Jackson, I don't know if you can do a video. I know you're in the car. But I just want to say thank you for coming. That really meant a lot to me. And I wanted to see if you had any last minute thoughts on game thinking or on any of the questions that I just answered that you wanted to share with anyone. Any last minute thoughts before we sign off?
Sure. I'll just add that, I mean, how I saw the investment was just in time savings. And having, when I was in the Masterclass, having the ability to actually dive into some of the product design with someone who wasn't as part of the company was fantastic.
Thank you for sharing that. It was fantastic to work with you. You and your team are amazing.
Thanks, Amy Jo.
Yeah, and I'll just add that it's really helped us focus on digging in the right places first. And so with our launch coming up so quickly, that focus really makes me feel a lot more secure in the fact that we're spending our really precious time and resources in a way that is going to drive us forward towards the best result. I think we would have been doing, no doubt, our best without this, but yeah, I'm resting easier knowing that we're focused, that you really push us very hard. It's exciting and it keeps the momentum and the excitement up across my team. So it's been wonderful so far. I'm really excited to keep going.
Fantastic.
That's right.
Hey, Scott, can you mute?
No, you have a terrible echo.
Okay, yeah, I'll turn that off.
Okay,
Hey.
now you can go.
Okay. Hey, it's Scott here. I'm looking forward to coaching the education track. See, I guess I would add that the biggest difference game thinking has made for me is staying in problem space, which is, you know, I'm an inventor. I like coming up with new ideas, and then and that works if you're being like an author. But if you're trying to serve other people, you really have to pay much more attention to what people need. That's kind of the obvious thing to say, but talking to superfans has really accelerated the process beyond where I thought it would go. Sometimes I find out stuff that, yeah, I knew that, but the way I know it, and I'm sure Davina and Kara have run into this, after you talk to people and you see a pattern over and over, you're sure. It's not just a guess or a hunch. It's a market truth. And you can really build on that. So that's the difference it's made for me. And I hope some people from education join, because I'd love to, I care about making education better. And this can make education a lot more fun, but a lot more engaging, keep people persisting.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Why don't you go turn your sound down so we don't get the echo now? All right. Oops. No, turn your sound down. Thank you. All right. So thank you. Ambikesh, any parting words?
Yeah, absolutely. Resonating everything that Kara, Davina, and Scott just said. as I said, I'm pumped about starting on this masterclass as an assistant coach, and get certified in this. Help more people with this, because it's one of those things that you think, you have this knowledge, you want to share it with more people, help more people. And I think that's the thought that you guys have within yourself too, and that translates. And I'm really excited about doing this.
I'm excited about doing it with you. So I want to leave you with this thought. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Davina, Vikesh, Jackson, Scott, and everyone else listening in. Thank you for your questions. I love this quote from Reid Hoffman. The fastest way to change yourself is to hang out with people who are already the way you want to be. If you want to be a kick-ass product designer, if you want to find product market fit faster than you thought possible, you've just got a taste of what it's like to hang out with people that know game thinking and are getting a lot out of it. Come and join us. Level up your skills and hang out with people who are already where you want to be. Come hang out with me. Come let me be your coach and guide you through those shortcuts. Come hang out with these other wonderful alumni and the current students, and you will get where you want to go so much faster than if you just struggle through it on your own. All right, so I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Remember, there's just a couple of hours left.